What is a saturated market? Do you really know what that term means? A lot of people use it online, and I don't think they really understand what it means. They use it to describe a competitive market or a market that is rich with buyers and sellers. And that doesn't necessarily mean anything close to saturation. If you look it up, the real term meaning is when a product has hit a diffusion point where there's no longer a huge market for new buyers, there's only a market for replacement buyers and repair and service. The best example is the refrigerator. The refrigerator is sort of a 97% saturated market. Everybody who's got one, or everybody who needs one, probably already has one. I know I have a refrigerator, and you know, I bought mine like 10 years ago and it still works, and I probably won't need a new one for another 5 or 10 years, so I'm not a refrigerator buyer for a long time. That makes for a saturated market. It makes it very difficult for a new company to come into the game and say, I want to start selling refrigerators and be the new refrigerator company. You might get some sales because you're new, but the reality is that you're not going to get any kind of massive uptake in your product. Another good example might be the George Foreman grill. As silly as that sounds, they actually hit a point where their commercial running was no longer profitable because they had sold the grill to almost as many people as they could, and they hit that point where the people who saw the commercial already had the grill. The majority of the people who were going to buy it already bought it, and the law of diminishing returns dictated that they stopped running the commercial. But a lot of people use it incorrectly when we talk about the online space. You know, somebody asked me today, isn't the dating market saturated? And I said, no, it's far from saturated. Every day there's thousands of new people entering the dating space, trying to find a new mate online. And the majority of the people that buy from online dating sites buy memberships from like 3 or 4 different dating sites at once. That's not a saturated market. That's a highly competitive growth market with a ton of potential customers coming online every day. So don't talk yourself out of getting into a business just because you think it's too competitive and you start using the term saturation, which actually is bullshit. It doesn't mean anything. Here's a couple things to think about. People might have said that the social networking space was saturated before Facebook came in because MySpace had all the social network members. And then Facebook came along and pretty much put MySpace under. The same thing can be said about Twitter. You know, there's always room for someone new. I remember when Internet Explorer was the dominating, Internet Explorer and Netscape were the 2 dominating browsers on my desktop, and then this new startup called Firefox came out of nowhere, and everybody started using their browser. Some would have said before they came into the space that the browser market was already saturated and that you shouldn't enter the space. You see, online, it's different. We're not buying refrigerators. We're buying $20 and $30 pieces of software. We're using free browsers. We're using free services. And usually the things that we do buy are not ridiculously expensive. So we're willing to consume multiple things in the same category. Just because a market is competitive doesn't mean it's saturated and doesn't mean you shouldn't get into it. In fact, the best markets, the ones that you can make the most money in, are the ones that you might consider saturated.